Hello everyone, let's start the second part of human health and diseases. We have covered till immunity and the lymphoid organs. Now moving on to AIDS. The word AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This means deficiency of immune system acquired during the lifetime of an individual, indicating that it is not a congenital disease. And we have learned in the introduction also that AIDS is the most fatal communicable disease. It is the most infectious and fatal disease. Whereas it is not only spread by the mere touch or any physical contact, it comes only through the intimate contact with a infected individual. So here we have talked about AIDS, infectious diseases. Some of the infectious diseases like AIDS are fatal. Moving ahead, AIDS is caused by a retrovirus, that is the HIV virus. It means the deficiency of the immune system acquired during the lifestyle of an individual, indicating that it is not a congenital disease. Syndrome means the group of symptoms. AIDS was first reported in 1981, and in the last 25 years or so it has spread all over the world, killing more than 25 million persons. It is a huge number. 25 million persons being killed in the last 25 years because of the AIDS, and it was first reported in 1981 only. AIDS is caused by human immunodeficiency virus, HIV virus, a member of the group of viruses called retrovirus, which have an envelope enclosing the RNA genome. Transmission of the HIV infection generally occurs by sexual contact with the infected person. Second, by the transfusion of contaminated blood and blood products. Third, by sharing infected needles, as in the case of intravenous drug abusers. And fourth, from the infected mother to her child through the placenta. So people who are at a high risk of getting this infection includes individuals who have multiple sex partners, drug addicts who take drugs intravenously, and individuals who require repeated blood transfusions, and children born to an HIV infected mother. Do you know when do people need repeated blood transfusion? Yes, they need in the case of the platelet disorder, or because bone marrow is not able to form the blood cells properly. It is important to note that HIV or AIDS is not spread by mere touch or physical contact. It spreads only through the body fluids. It is hence imperative for the physical and psychological well-being that the AIDS or HIV infected person are not isolated from the family or the society. There is always a time lag between the infection and appearance of the AIDS symptom. This period may vary from a few months to many years, usually 5 to 10 years. So let's talk about the replication of retrovirus. AIDS is caused by a retrovirus, that is human immunodeficiency virus, HIV virus. So HIV virus is a retrovirus. यहाँ पे क्या होता है, एक वायरल प्रोटीन कोड होता है, we have the viral RNA code. Retroviruses have the RNA as the genetic material. So viruses infect the normal cell. Normal cell को infect करेंगे, then they introduce the viral RNA into the cell. This is the animal cell having the plasma membrane. As animal cell do not have a cell wall, तो यहाँ पे only plasma membrane is seen. So viral RNA is introduced into the cell. Viral DNA is produced by reverse transcriptase. There is an enzyme present, reverse transcriptase, that produces the viral DNA with the help of viral RNA. Viral DNA incorporates into the host genome. Now this viral DNA incorporates into the host genome, and this genome nucleus containing the DNA. Here the viral DNA also get integrated. New viral RNA is produced by the infected cell. Now infected cell will produce the RNA, so it will produce the new viral RNA. New viruses are produced, and these viruses move out of the animal cell, and new viruses can infect other cells. Note, infected cell can survive while viruses are being replicated and released. जो infected cell था वो survive कर सकता है, लेकिन जब new viruses produce कर रहा है वो. So moving ahead, after getting into the body of a person, the virus enters into macrophages, where RNA genome of the virus replicates to form the viral DNA with the help of the enzyme reverse transcriptase. This viral DNA gets incorporated into the host DNA with the help of the integrase enzyme and directs the infected cell to produce virus particles. The macrophages continue to produce virus and in the way act like a HIV factory. Simultaneously, HIV enters into the T lymphocytes also, T helper lymphocytes, and replicates and produces progeny viruses there also. The progeny viruses released into the blood attack other T helper lymphocytes. This is repeated, leading to the progressive decrease in the number of T helper lymphocytes in the body of the infected person. During this period, the person suffers from bouts of fever, diarrhea, and weight loss. Due to decrease in the number of T helper lymphocytes, the person starts suffering from infection that could have been otherwise overcome, such as those due to bacteria, especially mycobacterium, viruses, fungi, and even parasites like toxoplasma. The patient becomes so immunodeficient that he/she is unable to protect himself or herself against these infections. A widely used diagnostic test for AIDS is enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, that is ELISA. Treatment of AIDS with antiretroviral drugs is only partially effective. They can prolong the life of the patient but cannot prevent the death, which is inevitable. So it is not non-curable disease. We can only use the antiretroviral drugs, and these are only partially effective to prolong the life of the patient. Now let's talk about prevention of AIDS. It is better said prevention is better than cure, because if you get the disease of AIDS, this cannot be get cured a lifetime. So you have to live with that disease only. As AIDS has no cure, prevention is the best option. Moreover, HIV infection more often spreads due to conscious behavior patterns, and it is not something that happens inadvertently, like pneumonia or typhoid. Of course, infection in blood transfusion patients, newborns from mother, etc., may take place due to the poor monitoring. The only excuse may be ignorance, and it has been rightly said, don't die of ignorance. In our country, the National AIDS Control Organization (NACO) and other non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are doing a lot to educate people about AIDS. WHO has started a number of programs to prevent the spreading of HIV infection, making blood from blood banks safe from HIV, ensuring the use of only disposable needles and syringes in public and private hospitals and clinics, free distribution of condoms, controlling drug abuse, advocating safe sex, and promoting regular checkups in HIV in the HIV susceptible population are some steps taken up. Infection with HIV or having AIDS is something that should not be hidden, since then the infection may spread to many more people. HIV or AIDS infected people need help and sympathy instead of being shunned by the society. Unless society recognizes it as a problem to be dealt with a collective manner, the chances of widespread of the disease increase manifold. It is a malady that can only be tackled by the society and the medical fraternity acting together to prevent the spread of this disease. Now let's talk about the cancer. In introduction, we have talked about cancer also. It is the non-infectious disease, but it is most fatal non-infectious disease. Cancer is one of the most dreaded diseases of human beings, and is a major cause of the death all over the globe. Not only in India, it is a major cause of death all over the globe. More than 1 million Indians suffer from cancer, and a large number of them die from it annually. We are talking about it annually. More than a million Indians suffer from cancer, and large number of them die from it annually. In case of AIDS, last 25 years में more than 25 million people have suffered from AIDS globally, and it was first diagnosed in 1981. So the mechanism that underlie development of cancer are all oncogenic transformations of cells. Its treatment and control have been some of the most intense areas of research in biology and medicine. In our body, cell growth and differentiation is highly controlled and regulated. In cancer cells, there is breakdown of these regulatory mechanisms. Normal cells shows a property of contact inhibition. कॉन्टेक्ट इनहिबिशन मतलब जो एडजेसेंट सेल्स हैं वो एक दूसरे के अनकंट्रोल ग्रोथ को रोक सकते हैं. कॉन्टेक्ट इनहिबिशन बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ विच कॉन्टेक्ट विद अदर सेल्स इनहिबिट्स देयर अनकंट्रोल्ड ग्रोथ. Cancer cells appears to have lost this property. As a result of this, cancerous cells just continue to divide, giving rise to masses of cells called tumors. Tumors are of two types, benign and malignant. Benign tumors normally remain confined to their original location and do not spread to other parts of the body and cause little damage. The malignant tumor, on the other hand, are the mass of proliferating cells called neoplastic or tumor cells. These cells grow very rapidly, invading and damaging the surrounding normal tissues. As these cells actively divide and grow, they also starve the normal cells by competing for vital nutrients. Cells slugged from such tumors reach distinct sites through blood, and wherever they get lost in the body, they start a new tumor there. This property is called the metastasis. It is the most feared property of the malignant tumors. Causes of cancer. Transformation of normal cells into cancerous cells, neoplastic cells, may be induced by physical, chemical, or biological agents. These agents are called carcinogens. Ionizing radiations like X-rays and gamma rays. Ionizing radiations like X-rays and gamma rays. We can remember ionizing radiation मतलब ions आ रहे हैं. Ions आ रहे हैं तो X-rays आ सकती है और gamma rays आ सकती है. Because we had talked about इनसे हम रेडियो एक्टिविटी कर सकते हैं, तो that produce the ions. तो X-rays and gamma rays are ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing radiation like UV rays. UV rays non-ionizing radiation में हम काउंट करेंगे because it is most common. UV rays तो हम सन से भी होती है ना, तो cause DNA damage to leading to the neoplastic transformation. The chemical carcinogen present in tobacco smoke have been identified as the major cause of the lung cancer. Cancer-causing viruses called oncogenic viruses have genes called viral oncogenes. Furthermore, several genes called cellular oncogenes or proto-oncogenes have been identified in normal cells. Normal cells में cellular oncogenes या फिर proto-oncogenes identified होते हैं, which when activated under certain condition could lead to oncogenic transformation of the cells. Cancer detection and diagnosis. Early detection of cancer is essential as it allows the disease to be treated successfully in many cases. Cancer detection is based on biopsy and histopathological studies of the tissue and the blood and the bone marrow test for increased cell counts in the case of leukemias. Leukemias is infecting the blood, infecting the cell counts. In biopsy, a piece of the suspected tissue cut into the thin sections is stained and examined under a microscope. Histopathological studies by a pathologist. Techniques like radiography, use of X-rays, CT, computed tomography, and MRI, magnetic resource imaging, are very useful to detect cancers of the internal organs. Computed tomography uses X-rays to generate a three-dimensional image of the internals of the object. MRI uses strong magnetic fields and non-ionizing radiations to accurately detect the pathological and physiological changes in the living tissue. So computed tomography uses the X-ray or MRI uses the non-ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing radiation like UV rays and strong magnetic fields. Antibodies against cancer-specific antigens are also used for detection of certain cancers. Techniques of molecular biology can be applied to detect genes in individuals with inherited susceptibility to certain cancers. Identification of such genes which predispose an individual to certain cancers may be very helpful in prevention of the cancers. Such individuals may be advised to avoid exposure to the particular carcinogen to which they are susceptible. Example, tobacco smoke in the case of lung cancer. Treatment of cancer. What can be the treatment of cancer? Cancer is incurable. So, the common approaches for treatment of cancer are surgery, radiation therapy, and immunotherapy. In radiotherapy, tumor cells are eradicated lethally, taking proper care of the normal tissue surrounding the tumor mass. Several therapeutic drugs are used to kill cancer cells. Some of these are specific for particular tumors. Majority of the drugs have side effects like hair loss, anemia, etc. Most cancers are treated by combination of surgery, radiotherapy, and chemotherapy. Tumor cells have been shown to avoid detection and destruction by the immune system. Therefore, the patients are given substances called biological response modifiers called the alpha interferon, which activates their immune system and helps in destroying the tumor. Basically, cancer is not completely curable in some cases because there are stages of cancer: first stage, second stage, third stage, and fourth stage. Mostly the fourth stage cancers are very lethal and can cause the death of the person. Drugs and alcohol abuse. Surveys and statistics shows that use of drugs and alcohols have been on the rise, especially among the youth. This is really a cause of concern as it could result in many harmful effects. Proper education and guidance would enable youth to safeguard themselves against these dangerous behavior patterns and follow healthy lifestyles. The drugs which are commonly abused are opioids, cannabinoids, and coca alkaloids. Majority of these are obtained from flowering plants, some are obtained from fungi. Some drugs are obtained from flowering plants, some are obtained from fungi. Majority commonly abused drugs are these are opioids, cannabinoids, and coca alkaloids. Opioids are the drugs which bind to the specific opioid receptor present in our central nervous system and gastrointestinal tract. Heroin, commonly called smack, is chemically diacetylmorphine, which is white, odorless, bitter, crystalline compound. This is obtained by acetylation of morphine. So heroin is also known as smack. It is chemically diacetylmorphine, which is colorless, white, bitter, crystalline compound. This is obtained by acetylation of morphine, which is extracted from the latex of the poppy plant, Papaver somniferum. Chemical structure of morphine. This is the chemical structure of morphine. You should remember it. And this is the opium poppy plant. Heroin is formed from acetylation of morphine, which is extracted from the latex of the poppy plant, Papaver somniferum. Generally taken by snorting and injection, heroin is a depressant and slows down body function. This question is asked in NEET exam many times. Cannabinoids are a group of chemicals which interact with cannabinoid receptors. अब cannabinoid receptor कहाँ present होंगे? They are present principally in the brain. Opioid receptors कहाँ present है? Opioid receptors specific होते हैं present in our central nervous system and gastrointestinal tract. Cannabinoid receptor कहाँ present होंगे? These are present principally in the brain. So natural cannabinoids are obtained from the inflorescences of the plant Cannabis sativa. The flower, tops, leaves and the resin of the cannabis plant are used in various combinations to produce marijuana, hashish, charas and ganja. Generally taken by inhalation and oral ingestion, these are known for their effects on cardiovascular system of the body. So this is a skeletal structure of cannabinoid molecule. Leaves of cannabis sativa. These are the leaves of cannabis sativa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Coca alkaloid or cocaine is obtained from coca plant, Erythroxylum coca, native to South America. It interferes with the transport of the neurotransmitter dopamine. Cocaine, commonly called coke or crack, is usually snorted. It is a potent stimulating action on the central nervous system. So basically we have seen जो ओपियोइड्स थे उसके रिसेप्टर भी सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम में प्रेजेंट थे और जीआई ट्रैक्ट में प्रेजेंट थे. कैनाबिनॉइड्स के रिसेप्टर भी प्रिंसिपली ब्रेन में प्रेजेंट थे. एंड कोका एल्कलॉइड्स दे हैव potent stimulating action on the central nervous system, producing a sense of euphoria and increased energy. यूफोरिया में इमेजिनरी सिचुएशंस कंसिडर करके वो अपनी ही वर्ल्ड में खो जाते हैं. एक्सेसिव डोजेज ऑफ कोकेन कॉज हेलुसिनेशंस. अदर वेल नोन प्लांट्स विथ hallucinogenic properties are Atropa belladonna and datura. These days, cannabinoids are also being abused by some sportspersons. This is the flowering branch of datura, which produces a hallucinogenic effect. Drugs like barbiturates, amphetamines, and benzodiazepines, and some similar drugs that are normally used as medicines to help patients cope with a mental illness like depression and insomnia. Depression is a state of the mind जहाँ पे they are afraid of things and they're not having interest in anything. And insomnia is sleeping disorder are often abused. कौन कौन से ड्रग्स अब्यूज़ किए जाते हैं? बार्बिटूरेट्स, एम्फेटामाइंस एंड बेंजोडायज़ेपिन्स. So morphine is very effective sedative and painkiller and is very useful in patients who have undergone surgery. Several plants, fruits and seeds having hallucinogenic properties have been used for hundreds of years in folk medicine, religious ceremonies and rituals over the globe. when these are taken for the purpose other than the medicinal use or in the amounts of frequency that impairs one physiological or psychological function, it constitutes a drug abuse. Moving ahead, smoking also paves the way to hard drugs. Tobacco has been used by human beings for more than 400 years. More than 400 years से tobacco use हो रहा है. It is smoked, chewed or used as a snuff. Tobacco contains a large number of chemical substances including nicotine and alkaloid. Nicotine stimulates adrenal gland to release adrenaline and noradrenaline into the blood circulation, both of which raises the blood pressure and increases the heart rate. Smoking is associated with increased incidence of cancer of lungs, urinary bladder and throat, bronchitis, emphysema, coronary heart disease, gastric ulcer, etc. Tobacco chewing is associated with increased risk of cancer of the oral cavity. Smoking increases carbon monoxide content in the blood and reduces the concentration of heme-bound oxygen. This causes oxygen deficiency in the body. When one buys packets of cigarettes, one cannot miss the statutory warning that is present on the packing, which warns against smoking and says how it is injurious to the health. Yet smoking is very prevalent in the society, both among the young and the old. Knowing the dangers of smoking and chewing tobacco and its addictive nature, the youth and the old need to avoid these habits. Any addict requires counseling and medical help to get rid of that habit. Now talking about adolescence and drug or alcohol abuse. Adolescence means both a period and the process during which a child becomes mature in terms of his or her attitudes and beliefs of effective participation in society. The period between 12 to 18 years of age may be thought as of the adolescence period. In other words, adolescence is a bridge linking childhood and the adulthood. Adolescence is accompanied by several biological and behavioral changes. Adolescence thus is a very vulnerable phase of mental and psychological development of an individual. Curiosity, need for adventure and excitement and experimentation constitute common causes which motivate youngsters towards drug and alcohol abuse. Talking about the Gen Z, a child's natural curiosity motivates him or her to experiment. This is complicated further by effects that might be perceived as benefits of alcohol or drug abuse. Thus, the first use of drugs or alcohols may be out of curiosity or experimentation, but later the child starts using these to escape facing problems. Of late, stress from the pressures to excel in academics or examinations has played a significant role in persuading the youngsters to try alcohol and drugs. The perception among youth is that it is cool or progressive to smoke. Use drugs or alcohol is also in a way a major cause for youth to start these habits. Television, movies, newspaper, internet also help to promote this perception. Other factors that have been seen to be associated with the drug and alcohol abuse among adolescents are unstable or unsupportive family structures and peer pressures. So let's talk about addiction and dependence. Because of the perceived benefits, drugs are frequently used repeatedly. The most important thing which one fails to realize is the inherent addictive nature of the alcohol and drugs. Addiction is a psychological attachment to certain effects such as euphoria and the temporary feeling of well-being associated with drugs and alcohol. These drive people to take them even when they are not needed or even when their use becomes self-destructive. With repeated use of drugs, the tolerance level of the receptors present in our body increases. Consequently, the receptors respond only to the higher doses of alcohol or the drugs, leading to greater intake and addiction. However, it should be clearly borne in mind that use of these drugs, even once, can be forerunner to addiction. Thus, the addictive potential of drugs and alcohol pull the user into a vicious circle leading to their regular abuse from which she may not be able to get out of it. In the absence of any guidance or counseling, the person gets addicted and becomes dependent on their use. Dependence is a tendency of the body to manifest a characteristic and unpleasant withdrawal syndrome if regular dose of the alcohol or drugs is abruptly discontinued. This is characterized by anxiety, shakiness, nausea, sweating, which may be relieved when use is resumed again. In some cases, withdrawal syndromes can be severe and even life-threatening, and the person may need medical supervision. Dependence leads to the patient to ignore all the social norms in order to get sufficient funds to satiate his or her needs. These results in many social adjustment problems. Effects of drug or alcohol abuse. The immediate adverse effects of drug and alcohol abuse are manifested in the form of reckless behavior, vandalism, and violence. Excessive doses of drugs may lead to coma and death due to the respiratory failure, heart failure, or the cerebral hemorrhage. A combination of drugs or their intake along with the alcohol generally results in overdosing and even deaths. The most common warning signs of drug and alcohol abuse among youth include the drop in academic performance, unexplained absence from the school or college, lack of interest in personal hygiene, withdrawal, isolation, depression, fatigue, aggressive and rebellious behavior, deteriorating relationships with family and friends, loss of interest in hobbies, changing sleeping and eating habits, fluctuations in weight and appetite, etc. These may even be some far-reaching implications of drug or alcohol abuse. If an abuser is unable to get money to buy drugs or alcohol, he/she may turn to stealing. The adverse effects are just not restricted to the person who is using the drug or alcohol. At times, a drug alcohol addict becomes the cause of mental and financial distress to his or her family and friends. So, those who take drugs intravenously, direct injection into the vein or using a needle and the syringe, are much more likely to acquire serious infection like AIDS and hepatitis B because they are spread through body fluids. The viruses which are responsible for these diseases are transferred from one person to another by sharing of infected needles and syringes. Both AIDS and hepatitis B infections are chronic infection, ultimately fatal. Both can be transmitted through sexual contact or infected blood. The use of alcohol during adolescence may also have long-term effects. It could lead to heavy drinking in adulthood. The chronic use of drugs and alcohol damages nervous system and liver cirrhosis. The use of drugs and alcohol during pregnancy is also known to adversely affect the fetus. Another misuse of drugs is what certain sportspersons do to enhance their performance. They misuse narcotic analgesics, anabolic steroids, and diuretics and certain hormones in sports to increase the muscle strength and bulk, to promote the aggressiveness and as a result increase the athletic performance. So sportspersons mainly misuse narcotic analgesics, anabolic steroids, and diuretics and certain hormones. The side effects of the use of anabolic steroids in females include masculinization, features like males, increased aggressiveness, mood swings, depression, abnormal menstrual cycles, excessive hair growth on the face and the body, enlargement of the clitoris, deepening of the voice. In males, it includes acne, increased aggressiveness, mood swings, depression, reduction of the size of the testicles, decreased sperm production, potential for kidney and liver dysfunction, breast enlargement, premature baldness, enlargement of the prostate gland. These effects may be permanent with prolonged use. In the adolescent male or female, severe facial and body acne and premature closure of the growth centers of the long bones may result in the stunted growth. Let's talk about prevention and control. The old age adage of prevention is better than cure holds true here also. It is also true that the habits such as smoking, taking drug or alcohol are more likely to be taken up at the young age, more during the adolescence. Hence, it is best to identify the situation that may push an adolescent towards the use of the drugs or the alcohol and to take remedial measures well in time. In this regard, the parents and the teachers have a special responsibility. Parenting that combines with the high levels of nurturance and consistent discipline have been associated with lower risk of substance or alcohol abuse. Some of the measures mentioned here would be particularly useful for prevention and control of alcohols and drugs among the adolescents. Avoid undue peer pressure. Every child has their own choice and personality which should be respected and nurtured. The child should not be pushed unduly to perform his or her threshold limits, be it studies, sports or other activities. Education and counseling, seeking help from parents and peers, looking for danger signs, seeking professional and medical help. Let's talk about summary. Health is not just the absence of disease, it is a state of complete physical, mental and social and psychological well-being. This definition was given by WHO. Diseases like typhoid, cholera, pneumonia, fungal infections of skin, malaria and many other diseases are major cause of distress to the human beings. Vector-borne diseases like malaria and filariasis and dengue and chikungunya, malaria especially one caused by the Plasmodium falciparum, if not treated may prove fatal. Besides personal cleanliness and hygiene, public health measures like proper disposal of waste, decontamination of drinking water, control of vectors like mosquito, and immunization are very helpful in preventing these diseases. Our immune system plays a major role in preventing these diseases when we are exposed to disease-causing agents. The innate defenses of our body, like skin, mucous membrane, antimicrobial substances present in our tears, saliva, and the phagocytic cells help to block the entry of the pathogens into our body. If the pathogens succeed in gaining the entry to our body, specific antibodies, humoral immune response, and cell-mediated immune response serve to kill these pathogens. Immune system has memory. On subsequent exposure to same pathogen, the immune response is rapid and more intense. This forms the basis of protection afforded by vaccination and immunization. Among other diseases, AIDS and cancer kill a large number of individuals worldwide. AIDS is AIDS in the last 25 years. It has been caused 25 million people are infected from AIDS worldwide, and in case of cancer, almost 1 million, more than 1 million Indians are suffering from cancer annually, and many of them die of the cancer. AIDS caused by the human immunodeficiency virus is fatal but can be prevented if certain precautions are taken. Many cancers are curable if detected early and appropriate therapeutic measures are taken. Of late, drug and alcohol abuse among youth and adolescents is becoming another cause of concern because of the addictive nature of the alcohol and the drugs and their perceived benefits like relief from stress. A person may try taking these in the face of peer pressure, examinations related and competition related stresses. In doing so, he/she may get addicted to them. Education about their harmful effects, counseling, and seeking immediate professional and medical help would totally relieve the individual from these effects. This was all about the human health and disease. We will cover microbes in human welfare in the next chapter, in the next video. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you for listening me out. Have a great day.